Welcome back to Oklahoma Chronicles. Now we want to take a deeper look at NIL rules, the current state of college athletics, and the transfer portal, and all of it. Joining our panel today, a couple really good guests. We have State Senator Todd Gallagher here, who authored NIL legislation this year in Oklahoma, very busy. Keeping your eyes on everything and the moving and shaking. Also, Bobby Lepak, who teaches an NIL class at the University of Oklahoma. Thanks so much, Bobby, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk NIL and the transfer portal and everything. As we were talking earlier, we just talked about how everything is changing so much. In fact, Bobby, you have this class on NIL. It's through the business college there at OU. And you had to stop teaching it for a while.
Yeah.
Because everything's changing it so fast sometimes.
Correct. It's a really dynamic landscape, and between the Alston decision and then the new rules after that, then House litigation, and now potentially the SCORE Act and all of that.
You know, how about back us up a little bit? When you start talking about the Alston decision and all of that, I mean, I should even say NIL. When we say that, name, image, likeness, this was something created so that college athletes, student athletes, could receive compensation, get some money for signing autographs or doing endorsement deals, but it's really grown. So I want to come back to all the nitty gritty, but this has become such a huge thing that even state legislators now are having to watch very closely, not just in Oklahoma, but around the country.
That's right. You know, this the legislation we passed this year was basically the governor had done an executive order. This was taking that executive order, worked closely with the University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University to get this bill through the Senate and over to the House. But it's so dynamic in that it's almost, there's 32 states already running NIL legislation.
And they're all different from each other, or they're all the same?
Well, some of them are, and it's very competitive. And so we ran this legislation in order to keep that competitive edge that our universities need, as well as to protect the student athletes.
Okay, and everybody's doing this at the same time because of these changing dynamics, Bobby, and how everything's happening from the decision and and lawsuits and everything. How many different factors are in play right now? How many things are colleges juggling and athletic departments?
I think you got three big ones, right? So you have the name, image, and likeness stuff, NIL, which I think is a distinct concept from pay for play, which is what's coming from the revenue share agreements that are coming out of the House settlement.
Okay.
And then the last is the transfer portal, which is really, I think, the one that's actually, I would say, the culprit in so much of the consternation around college sports is the kind of open transfer rules that are going on
I think when you talk to most college football fans, they can get behind these universities. They're making so much money off of their backs, especially these very revenue making sports like football and basketball. They should get something. But now it's become, but I don't like them leaving every single year, where every single year we got a new roster of players. Whether or not you had a good team or a bad team, it's a whole new thing. Is the portal become exploited because of NIL? Did one kind of create a monster out of the other, do we think?
I think the portal has, as far as the fans are concerned, has created an impatience that instead of, the traditional way we've always done it, which is take a young man and redshirt him and then build that team and build those skill sets. Now it's, hey, you've got the money, go out there and just buy a team for us. We want to win next year. So it's created an impatience in the fan base, but it's also created impatient with the coaches and the coaching staff and the different styles.
Right. Is this difficult on these coaching staffs?
Oh, absolutely. I have a personal connection to it.
You have a brother.
Yeah,
who's a coach.
my younger brother Brian, who played football, and so I saw it from the side of the athlete that wasn't allowed to get NIL.
Right. Now, this was beforehand.
Beforehand,
yeah,
and now
the olden times.
Right, back in the day, and now as a coach dealing with the dynamic of the portal, you're not just recruiting high school players, you're recruiting at various times in the calendar year players from other rosters that have gone into the portal, but you're also trying to prevent your own guys from going into the portal. Right. And so it creates this dynamic where the coaching calendar is just a nightmare. They're working nonstop year round on roster management issues and recruiting guys that play for them, play in high school, and are now in the portal. It's a very difficult situation.
And it doesn't stop.
It never stops.
And it's changing sometimes because from a leadership perspective, you're trying to protect the interests of the state universities, correct? Is that when you're doing these bills? Is it coming from that standpoint to make sure that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and other universities in the state are on at least a competitive footing?
That's right. In this state, it applies to all the universities, but, if you're just talking about University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University, they're actually in two different conferences. And so it's imperative that we actually evened out that landscape so that if the SEC did something early and the Big 12 was late to catch up, there wouldn't be a disadvantage, a competitive disadvantage between the two schools, much less a competitive disadvantage coming from other states and other universities. They call it the Wild Wild West, but it's more of an arms race at this point.
Right. And I remember the old arms race when it was about facilities.
Yeah.
And T. Boone Pickens was out there and they were dominating the arms race, and now it's something completely different.
But I think that's actually a really good point, is you're just changing the mix, right? Where are you allocating your resources in this? And this is something that's coming up in the coaching world, is how are you going to manage your roster? How are you going to manage your personnel? I think it's going to take a new breed of coach, new breed of athletic director. I think you're seeing departments do that. Oklahoma's done a really, I think, outstanding job of changing how they manage the roster. They brought in a GM with NFL experience, things like that.
They actually have a general manager for these programs now.
Right. And I think you'll see the people that are creative and open to the chaos and willing to take that challenge on really succeed and blossom in this. And if you're not willing to adapt to the new environment, then you're going to have a hard time.
And there might be more adapting to come because there is federal legislation that could be, that could be changing things again with the SCORE Act, for example, which, Bobby, that would make a big change as well. Or maybe would that bring us together, perhaps? Because the whole idea of that is it would create a national system, correct? For state senators wouldn't have to be every single year creating new NIL legislation.
It's interesting. The SCORE Act, if you look at it really closely, it's basically saying we're just going to create what the NCAA used to be and give them the antitrust exemption and give them authority to enforce a bunch of rules, right? And so it kind of harkens back, but then added in are the three components we talked about earlier. There's got to be revenue share, there's got to be transfer portal options, and then the NIL protections. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go, if it's even going to pass.
What is your intuition, and what are you hearing about this?
Well, I think it's interesting that from the federal level to the state level, that as we said, we were in it to keep the competitive, not wanting to be at a competitive disadvantage and to protect our student athletes. When you listen to what's coming out of the federal side, they're talking about stabilizing the system, and they're talking about protecting them from antitrust lawsuits in NCAA.
Right.
And so it's kind of a different focus, and an individual state doesn't want to be disadvantaged to another state or another university, where the federal government's trying to make that stability, give each university that ability to compete too.
Bottom line, and we have less than 2 minutes here, is this better than what it was when your brother was playing football? Bobby, what do you think?
I think from an NIL perspective, it's absolutely better, right? My brother was still is a very talented singer, and I remember he's a walk-on player at Oklahoma. He couldn't go be somebody's wedding singer and get paid the market rate for his services. That was wrong, right? That's exploitation, all of those things. But I think the environment that's created with the ongoing transfer portal, no rules or very limited rules, and a lot of uncertainty on what's going to happen with eligibility. We even see litigation over that. I think that's worse, and I think that somebody's going to have to step up and make a change, whether that's a federal solution or that's the colleges themselves self-regulating and saying we're not going to participate in this game this way anymore. I think somebody's got to do something about that.
Well, there's always going to be billionaire donors, right, that are going to be willing to step up, and it's just who has them and who's willing to use it. In less than a minute, do you think, Senator, the current system, is college athletics broken, or are we moving towards a better place, or are we there now?
I think we're moving towards a better place, and the state and the state legislature and the governor are engaged in temporary solutions until we can figure this out nationally or however we're going to do it. But I think we're moving to a better solution where we're going to have revenue sharing and we're going to have controls and things over college athletics to ensure that, you know, the Olympic sports aren't left behind, to
That's a big
ensure that
question.
women's sports aren't left behind.
Yes.
I think that's going to take a national solution on that.
We'll tell you what, we're going to pause here. We're going to take a break. You can find more. We're going to record a little bit more. We're going to talk about those other sports and how we can protect them. You can find that on KOCO.com as well as our YouTube page.